be not on my head anymore.
All right, you need to turn down your levels. You need to.
No.
Yes,
because then you can't hear me.
Well, then breathe softer than you talk.
This. Don't worry about it. All right, whatever. Keep talking.
Okay.
Go.
So that's something I just wanted to make clear, right? Obviously, not everybody needs to get involved in like the hardcore politics of like every faction, but hypothetically, right? So, for instance, Weirin probably cares a lot about what we do with the Weight Watchers. Maragrug is going to care a lot about how we integrate or how the integration doesn't happen if they choose to go that way. For the Kolkari, right? But I just wanted to get it on record. Because we actually had in the podcast last week, Mango and I were talking about it, and he was like, oh, I didn't even know that like there would be like a ruling section of this. And I was like, oh no, that's legit. We got to figure this shit out. Anyways. Anything else about that? Any questions?
Probably finish leveling my character at some point, but probably don't need to this.
Yeah, okay, cool. Alright, well, let's do it. So you guys are meeting with,
Elector Fortinax,
Elector Fortinax, about, hypothetically, getting the Kyonin. Essentially, the immediate benefit is Kyonin becomes a benefactor, and it's also the long-term stuff of like a little bit of kind of foreign policy and trade policy stuff, right? You guys spent a lot of time last week kind of debating a game plan. Now it's about actually hashing out what everything will look like with Elector Fortinax himself.
So I want to give, since I wrote it down, do we need a quick summary of what we said?
That's probably a good idea.
All right. So, we basically said that we want to, we'll protect ships coming in and out of the port. We give Kyonin the right to develop Knight's Bay into a shining harbor on the sea. Knight's Bay is that bay to the north of Kintargo, next to Knight Road. We're going to turn Kintargo into a trade hub, which is more of a how we plan to talk to them. We basically, they want to establish a teleportation circle. We basically would like the ability to dictate where that is, and the current thinking is the Alabaster Academy, or somewhere equidistant to the existing port. Import and export tariffs will be the same out of both harbors. We have some bargaining room there for favorable rates for Kyonin. The harbor development, a percentage of harbor development can be joined by local interests. In other words, the noble houses or whoever can essentially buy the rights to help develop and then use part of the harbor. Protection for the silver and salt industries, mutual defense, and teleporter trade is open to the locals. They can't just have the teleporter here and then not trade with us.
Yep.
That was everything that we said.
Who's going to this meeting? Is it all of us? Or is it just Altanus and Alaric?
I imagine it's all of you.
Okay.
Unless no one else cares, in which case...
Okay, so the meeting is held in the Mage Tower. The Mage's Tower sets up kind of like a conference room for you guys to kind of like hash all this stuff out. It has actually like pretty good food, to be honest. Like little Danishes and like pastries and shit.
Mana biscuits?
No, there are no tasty mana biscuits, unfortunately, but there's plenty of tasty homegrown Fall Crest food to eat from. Elector Fortinax welcomes everyone. He's wearing some pretty splendid, maybe even garish robes. And he says, what's up?
Before we go in here, I give Alaric 4 quiet words, all my quiet words.
Oof.
That way, if he needs to use them, he can.
I might get some kind of dank bonus if it's a Shattered Hall thing, but I just wanted to recognize his robes.
So the robes are a little bit like, like the wizard robes that people wear in graduation, like the doctors and shit, and they have those big like stripes and everything on it. It's kind of like his version of those, and they clearly like mark him as being like from the Shattered Hall and everything like that, and a high level mage affiliated with them.
Boy.
Okay. He says, "Welcome, my friends. I'm glad that you were able to come meet with me, because I was really hoping that we would be able to sit down and hash out some of these details."
Well, Dr. Fornax, again, it's an honor to meet with you again. I'm glad that we can come and talk about these important matters. I'll take the lead if my compatriots don't mind as the link between our two parties, is to say to go over what we think is a fair compromise.
I am entirely open to your counteroffer. I know that I laid out some pretty stark terms, so I would like to see kind of where we're at.
So, basically, I'd like to start by presenting a vision of the future of Catargo to you and to my fellow compatriots who no doubt would like to hear it again. You know currently that 75% of ships that stop here don't trade due to, frankly, ridiculous tariffs imposed by the Thrune government. They pay the docking fees and then they leave, and none of their goods enter Cantargo, and none of Cantargo's goods are sold to the wider world. There's obviously some exceptions, but for the most part, that's true. And we believe in open trade, in being open to trade with the nations of the world. And I understand that this is of interest to Keonan, as Keonan does not have access to the sea, as I am aware and you are aware, but perhaps some of our compatriots are not. But Keonan may have a way through Catargo to have access to the sea and bring a fair amount of new goods and services, or at least goods and services that would otherwise be prohibitively expensive, into their borders, and really have this be a mutually beneficial arrangement for all parties involved. Keonan, the lector, you have asked for exclusive rights to 50% of our existing, or of the existing port of Cantargo, and a 50-mile protection of ships coming in and out of the harbor of Keonish designs, and a tax-free zone in the Keonan Embassy, the future Keonan Embassy, to conduct trade. Our counteroffer to that is that we are absolutely, as part of our mandate to support shipping in and out of the harbor, we would absolutely love to grant protection on vessels entering and exiting the harbor. As you know, there's been some heavy piracy during the Thrune regime and for a while now, and we have made several commitments to stamping out that piracy, which is one of our top priorities once we retake the city. Ship on the matter of ship protection, kind of we are absolutely in agreement. 50 miles might be asking a bit much, but certainly eradicating piracy along our shores and keeping them patrolled is one of our top priorities.
I think that makes a good amount of sense. You are correct that it is the pirates that are haranguing trade from the nearby islands that are really raising our getting our attention and raising our ire. So if those pirates are eradicated, that requirement almost disappears.
Any information you could share with us will help us in eradicating the pirate threat. Obviously, I think everyone is in agreement that that's something that needs to happen. So, on the matter of the harbor, which I think is perhaps the most compelling part of our offer here, as you know, there are already the majority of the docks of Kintargo are in private hands. They are uh, held by several various members of noble families. There are free merchants, and I believe 25% of the docks are reserved as public spaces. And in short, there's already a premium on space. However, Kintargo is and has the only protected harbors in the region, and we would like to propose that there is a large undeveloped section of bay right to the north of Kintargo that we are calling Knights Road, or sorry, Knights Bay, or that has been called Knights Bay since it is adjacent to the Knight Road. You may have seen it before on your way in and out of the city. Our proposal is to grant Keonan the right to develop and maintain a port in Knights Bay, and in the setup phase of that, we will give Keonan essentially right of first refusal to use the public portion of the docks. You still have to pay the docking fee, but can while Knights Bay is getting up and running, the Keonan ships can go in and out of the harbor. Now, this isn't a free ride for anyone. Anyone trying to use any of the ports within Kintargo still needs to pay the same taxes and duties on trade entering and exiting.
All right. As far as I understand it, that aspect of the coastline is unsuitable. As far as I understand it, the only place to harbor ships is in the mouth of the river, and that the waters aren't deep enough anywhere else along the coastline. Is this true for Knights Bay?
My understanding was that it was deep enough. I assume that would be a knowledge local.
That would be a knowledge local.
Did we not do this last time?
Not that I remember.
I thought we did.
Well, if this answer reminds you of something, then we did. So it's a little bit of half and half. You could build out far enough. You know what I mean? Like if you go out far enough, you can kind of create dock space. But that is like prohibitively, not prohibitively expensive. It's just it is exceedingly expensive, right? This is a far more expensive option, essentially.
Oh, so we say that's true. It's true that the area immediately along the coast is not immediately suitable to ships and whatnot, but that's there's a lot of things go into having a port. There's warehouses, there's administrative offices, there's customs offices, etc. That's what we envisioned going there. And then further out into the bay, of course, is plenty of beautiful and protected harbor space that can be developed and really used. This will be a whole new section of the city that can then be tailored specifically to the needs of the Keonan representatives, or of the Keonan trade interest.
The interest of Keonan's trade is with the city itself, though, and being relegated to some kind of elven ghetto is a little.
So we aren't trying to. So another thing that we should mention is that this is we win and lose together is perhaps a great way to put this, because there's along with The aim is not to create a ghetto of any sort. The aim is to expand vastly the trade capacity of the city. As I said, the docks already are oversubscribed, and this would be a purely additive measure.
So I definitely understand the idea of increasing dock space. In fact, I think that that's actually relatively important. And there's a version of things where Kyonin takes over some of, if not all of those costs. But I'm less convinced that outside the city bounds is the right place. For instance, would it make sense to do so on the opposite bank? I understand the opposite bank to the Olubilis harbor docks area itself remains undeveloped.
There's
I mean,
there's buildings there.
I mean, like what we haven't done essentially the surveying of that area, but the immediate problem is that
What's
there are
there right
houses. Yeah, what's in like J6 and C3.
So
If
J6
it's
is actually
tieflings or if it's tieflings, I'm totally okay getting rid of them.
so J is Jarvis End, which is kind of like the happening, kind of like nightlife area of Kintargo. J6 specifically was the Silver Star, which was one of the 4 places that Barzillai burned to the ground and blamed on Gondor during the night of during the Night of Ashes. It is it is high end kind of real estate. You should really roll a knowledge local for this, but I'm sure you'll get it, kind of thing. It's kind of like high end but not noble real estate, if that makes sense. Like this is where if I'm a merchant or something, right, or I own a prosperous business, right, like I might get kind of like a waterfront place on Jarvis End. That said, it wouldn't be impossible. And for instance,
you don't need to destroy things to build docks. Docks extend out, but you need to like put warehouses and that other stuff somewhere.
Yeah, so like there's kind of, let's say that there are these kind of 5 areas. These would all be suitable spots that I just drew on the map. These would all be suitable spots that you could kind of like place docks, right? Actually, I'm going to redraw this just a tiny bit because the park is on the wrong side. So... Okay. So let's say, I'm not actually going to number them, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, kind of across the way, right?
Mm-hmm.
One already kind of has the dock. It's public docks. This is where, like, kind of like naval offices go because that part is technically in the castle district, and the castle district is where a lot of like the administration and stuff is. 2 and 3 would then be lower end residential for these kinds of like merchants and stuff, right? Like the bourgeoisie of the city, right? An amount of them live on in those 2 squares. Then this big one is more public land. That's a park, and they're just kind of more like offices and departments and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like the Kintargo DMV kind of low-level bureaucracy stuff are some of these big buildings over here. And then 5 would be the higher-end residential area of the merchants. Or of the bourgeoisie, I mean.
And are they looking for all of it? Like
No. Well, I mean, it depends. I mean, what do you want to ask?
How much dock space, and just for the purposes of this, we could define it in squares of
Gotcha.
city would be acceptable, or would Kyonin like to would Kyonin propose be repurposed for new trade development?
So these aren't all equal size, right? The 2 on the right.
I was honestly thinking like the square, like the grid squares that we see.
Oh,
Like-
that's actually a good point. Well, so the idea in my head is kind of like 1.5, right? Any of these first, like any of 1, 2, and 3, and then any of 4 and 5 would be enough. Or like if you kind of
Like
man, I made this way more
one of
confusing.
1, 2, 3. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, so like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 is kind of like half the size of 4 and 5. So you could either do like 1 and 4, for instance, or you could do 1, 2, 3 as a big group together, or you could do 5 and 2. You know what I mean? And that's kind of up to you.
So that's Keonan's ask is for essentially one and a half of those.
Yeah.
So if for this the secondary area, night space, what we're calling it.
Sure.
Is it that it's not deep enough?
Or like, could we like
Also,
again,
area
it's-
01, is that also docks?
Oh my god, you know what's funny? I planned this whole thing out and I didn't even think about it. Oh, one is totally docks. That's Old Town, right? And those docks are all dilapidated ruins.
Oh, okay. So
You know what's funny? It's because because of the way this is the dumbest thing though, right? Like because of the way the sheet loads, 01 is kind of below my browser thing, and so I like planned this whole thing, and I didn't even see it until I scrolled down because it wasn't on my screen. Sure. Anyway, 01 is dilapidated. That's all dilapidated ruins.
01 and 4 works. It's all we can give the public land away. Who cares about parks?
Yeah.
And 01, if they're willing to help rebuild it,
Okay,
Just have them rebuild
he
it
says, well, I will say that I've been in Kintargo enough that I understand that Old Town is not exactly the most, shall we say, friendly of districts, right?
Thus,
And
it's
so
also
if
the
we
cheapest
have
of districts. Hey.
So what I worry, and I understand this is purely hypothetical, but if we set up the nexus for the teleporters, and merchants are looking to bring incredibly high value, merchandise with them, right? The teleporter works essentially by volume, so the more kind of value density that you can pack into any individual teleport is what's important. If you're asking merchants who come into the Kyonin docks on the west side of Old Town, if you're asking them to then cart their wares through the most dangerous districts, the most, the most crime-ridden district in Kintargo before they can get to the Nexus, that is a concern and a worry for me.
So first of all, gentrification.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Your presence there will uplift the district.
Plus the influx of money, and doubtless, as I'm sure you are aware, the merchants will have their concerns just as much as you or I do, and they will doubtless provide their own mercenary forces to supplement our own forces, which this is in our best interest as well, right? Like this is in Kitargo's best interest as well. To have stable trade relations, and the public docks in Yolubilis Harbor are also available to those merchants who would like the shortest distance to. I assume that the teleporter would be set up at where
The teleporter must be set up at the academy. That's part of.
The teleporter has 4 spots that he asked for. One of 4 spots: the Temple District, the Castle District, the Academy, or Yolubilis Harbor.
the Academy is V4. The
Yeah, the
Castle
Academy
District is like
Filigree.
C5 ish.
The Castle District, any of the C's and any of the T's are castles and temple, and essentially anything around V4 or anything in the Y's is the other area.
So I wanted it to be in the Temple District so that there was some incentive for people to not just use the Keonan docks, right? Like if they
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. So we say it goes in the Temple District, and then they can use
Not
the.
Temple, sorry, the Academy.
Oh, the Academy District?
Yeah.
Oh, so you want them to be up by the you want them to be up by the Academy?
Yes.
Okay.
That was the original. That was
I'm
the
sorry,
original
I
thing.
misunderstood. Yeah, the point I was making was that he didn't demand that.
Okay.
Uh,
So-
I want to demand that. That way, that way the docks that are currently owned on the Olabilis have some value to them still, right? Like people who want to pay for premium dock space that will flow back into the local economy.
Elector Fortneck says, I am not enthused by the idea. I'm not enthused by the idea of having to pass across, honestly, most of the city twice. In retrospect, and he kind of like draws out. Let's say there's a map of Kintargo. He says, the only place to pass is Bitterbridge, and that's, we would have to go. Fuck. We would have to. Shit. Okay. We would have to go. We would have to go all the way east to the Bitterbridge, cross it, and then go all the way back west to the Academy. That's asking, these merchants to put miles on their.
Eventually, developing Knights Bay is very close to that.
I'm still I'm on board. I'm on board with these docks on the western shore. Also, what guarantee do these docks on the western shore have from outside attacks? The other docks are all protected by the city walls and by the garrison on the peninsula. Are there going to be?
Well, then didn't we? And didn't we also say that the western docks and the area with the parks and offices in it would be suitable?
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. Yes, okay.
Like you could
so
choose,
it's like splitting in half.
Essentially, like the merchants can choose if they are where to dock, including the docks in Yolabilis, when they want to come in. Where they want to put in, or if it's busy, they might have to wait in line.
Okay.
I have a proposal, Altanis. If I may, instead of granting exclusivity to you on these additional docks, we reconfigure the ownership such that the new docks are shared by proportion to everyone. And as a result, we grant you a portion of the old docks. And then we can locate the teleporter somewhere more conducive to travel, making the new docks on the south part of the Yellowbillis the prime docks, the north part the volume docks, and the western docks the cheap docks, as it were.
Fair enough. I think this makes a certain amount of sense.
The reasoning behind the split being that we cannot disenfranchise all of our currently existing traders and dock owners and the like to accommodate you. I hope you can understand that the needs of Canabras need to be
Kintargo.
Kintargo, yes. The needs of Kintargo need to be addressed. And
would the so when you say the cheap docks, would there be a difference in docking fees and tariff prices?
Well, I assume
the market will determine the docking fees.
Yeah, yes. My assumption is that the western docks will probably be the most minimal. The existing
as you have to incur the costs of essentially transit by, like, you were further from the central market district, so those are just cheaper by. Sorry, Lieutenant, I just wanted to
yes.
Sort of clarify why this is more likely. Hey, but if all of the docks are super oversubscribed, the western docks will probably need more raise prices as demand increases. Applying modern economic theory too.
Yes, as you pointed out, the western docks are less protected in the event of something. And acts of the gods, right? There's no amount of police force that will stop a storm from wrecking a harbor,
right?
And so they will be, by their nature, less safe, and prices will probably be lower there. By distributing that risk among all of the current stakeholders in the docking game, as it were, we take that risk off of your shoulders. And we distribute it to everybody that has a hand in the game, which I hope sounds fair to you.
I'm a little bit confused as to how the ownership structure is getting redistributed now?
So instead of giving them like primary pick on the new docks, they will get a larger share of the existing docks. Or they will get a piece of the existing docks, and we will shift some of the share of the existing owners of the old docks into the new two. Like as part of this project, we will shift some of say House Reynolds' share to the two new docking districts. Um,
Forcibly, or are you going to ask him if he wants? Is it going to be like a buy-in kind of opt-in sort of
I
thing,
think it's
or
a
are you
buy-in
going to?
type of. My understanding, I think, and I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
the
I
way
mean, I
to
remember we
not
talked
the
the way
about
to
it
not
that way.
offend the nobles.
it's going
This
to be
is
buy-in, allow them to sell out as much as they want, and grant the public dock space from because the public has 40% of the dock space. You said.
Yeah.
Their share of the dock space should not exceed that, or probably, but essentially give the Kyonin piece out of the public dock space, and take a public piece out of the western and the southern docks as well. Essentially, use that as kind of our
So-
wiggle room because we have full control over that.
I think what we said last time was that like the area kind of around like Y1, Y2 was the public docks,
Yeah.
right? So essentially in the short term, as we're like renovating the ports in Old Town and building the new ports here in the Temple District, the public dock space sort of becomes gets is I mean there will have to remain some public dock space, right, for the use of like random people who just want to sell things and don't want to own a dock. But in the new development, essentially they can over time shift around like the same representative amount of the dock will start in the new dock space, but then like we could swap it around. Does that make sense? And like or we'll develop. How about something like this? I'm making it up as I go along. Like the new docks are being developed, right? I don't
Right.
know. Is Keonan developing them by themselves or with the help of local merchants who buy in? Because that was how we pitched it last week.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes, but they will be responsible for a portion, a large portion of it, right? Like,
plus the owners here who want to buy in, plus
Yeah.
presumably the government
yeah,
will
for the public
chip in,
portion.
and then essentially the bridge is to give Keonan merchants right of first use of the public docks until we get that up and running.
Yeah.
That all makes sense to you,
I'm
Elector Fortnex?
Yeah, I'm sort of on board with that. Lecter Fortnex says, I do want to be clear, however, that I have no... Like, Keonan isn't going to pay for the renovation of docks that Keonan isn't going to use. You know what I mean? Like, they're not, like... If you want to kind of, like, auction off the land, almost, and then they can, they can buy into some of it, probably through the Shattered Hall, right? Like the Shattered Hall buys the land, and then just like operates it on behalf of Keonan, sort of thing. They would be more than happy to like develop that space and everything like that. But like they're not going to develop space on a dock that you. Do you see what I'm saying? They're not going to develop space on a dock that then you give to the Reynolds.
Right, which is I think like essentially the dock. So think of it this way: there will be like there will be architecture, planning, whatever done of the docks project, and it will at the end of the day cost amount of money X, right? And we essentially say like we divide that up. Keonan pays for whichever, like let's just round number 50%. Is that which is the docks project? It's not like they own a specific part of it. It's like a tenancy in common type thing where they put in 50% and they get the right to use 50% of the dock.
Right.
And then Reynolds puts in 20% and they get 20%, and the government puts in 15% and whatever, or however that works out, right?
Is the tenancy in common thing that the state currently for all the docks, or are they individually owned?
I don't quite know what that phrase means.
This is like the ownership. It's again, it's so that like I was just saying that as a like that we don't want in my mind you don't want to have like this hodgepodge of like unconnected, disjoint docks of varying quality. I mean, maybe that's okay, but to me, it seems better. Like we leverage the efficiency of building a whole dock at once or a whole port at once.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, especially with renegotiating who owns what. What something you guys would know is that because
like there might be individual plots. Sorry, I just sort of there might be individual portions of the dock. Like you say, we pay for this, and this portion is like dock 1A costs 1 million Kyonen bucks, and dock 1B costs 1 million Kyonen bucks.
Yeah.
Dock 2A through D cost 500,000 each, etc., etc.
Currently, those are parcels of land that are then kind of owned by typically noble houses, right? Either the Shadow Vales or the Reynolds or whatever. But Reynolds owns specific individual docks all across the harbor. They're not consolidated, right? This restructuring would give kind of everybody a boost because it would allow them to then consolidate their own kind of big section for docks, which would probably be a lot more effective. If you think about Reynolds does a ton of shipping in and out of Kintargo, right? His whole business is essentially that, but because his docks are all very disjointed, he doesn't do things like share equipment well, or he has to have stevedores on a bunch of different docks at random times, kind of things, right? But if you kind of give him this opportunity and say, well, the state is just going to reclaim all of the land, and then we're going to give it back to people kind of in big chunks, right? I think that will be a...
Yeah,
I think that especially the new docks...
So proposal for the way this works is, at the start of the project, when we map out the cost for this, we then also include the existing docks into that cost and divide it up and have some independent auditor kind of assign value by area and allow everybody to kind of work out how they want to purchase areas of the docks, with some, we'll work out preference system for
as an aside to Alaric, as an aside to Altanis, I say we'll probably want to clear this with the noble houses because we are implying that we're just going to if we do that. I think that for the new dock we can absolutely say this is how it'll work going forward, and we sort of present the present the advantages to the noble houses and say old docks might want to do this too, and then we can kind of have this grand as part of our grand reopening of the harbor.
The read you get is that the consolidation will be very valuable for nobles, but anyone else who doesn't own a large percentage of dock space, which are mostly bourgeoisie, anyone who doesn't own a large percent of dock space, these are the people that are losing out. You know what I mean? I'm a merchant that runs 2 or 3 ships, right? And I'm not Reynolds wealthy, and I'm not dealing with Reynolds kind of income and output sort of thing. But I am I have my one dock and I fill it up with you know what I mean? That person hypothetically gets screwed in this scenario.
How do they get screwed?
Because now their specific dock and their infrastructure, they don't get any benefit from consolidation.
They don't get any benefit from the sort of shared efficiency of you now run a whole set
Reynolds
of docks.
is going to make a ton of money just by decreasing his overhead by a ton, right? Because now he can consolidate
he only
equipment,
needs one forklift
employees,
instead of 4.
right? Exactly, right? Equipment, employees, warehouse space, right? All that stuff gets consolidated in one big block. But if I just own one dock in the first place, I don't get any benefit from then, putting my dock in a big pool of, you know what I mean? A big pool of everyone else, and then we have to sort through it or whatever. And
let's leave that for. Hold on 1 second. I think that we can talk about this issue, and I have some ideas. But if we're talking about the negotiations with no,
I want to know because I want to know if Beauregard's okay with this happening.
The detriment that they get is they need to move. First of all, this whole process upends whatever kind of infrastructure they've built on their dock, right? You know what I mean? If I've put a lot of money, it's like saying my house is worth a ton of money now, and then the government takes it and gives it to somebody else almost, right? Like if I'm a merchant who has invested a lot of money into my specific
Oh, I see what you're saying.
dock,
Yeah.
and then it gets put, and then and yeah, I might go get another dock, and maybe it's another dock of equal value, but it's not the same dock that I built up, and I have to rejigger my my whole business around that, right? There's also a lot of opportunity cost to these. Aren't people that are going to be able to afford to buy into any of the new development of the new docks, and so even the fact that they need to upend their business from like one like to the next dock over, right? There's an opportunity cost to the amount of time and energy and all that stuff that takes out of them essentially.
Sure.
So
this
that's essentially the detriment.
To me, it goes back to the new docking scheme. The new this sort of grand development idea could definitely be applied to any new docks, right? To the redevelopment of Old Town and to the new docks. I don't see a reason why we couldn't do this. The new docks, or sorry, the old docks, the current docks in Yolubilis Harbor, that might take some more doing. One could, for example, I imagine like a forming like a guild of independent merchants. The problem is that those guys might get annoyed. Like those guys
These
might get
guys
annoying
have
for
these guys have basically no bargaining power. There's no kind of like
Right.
union or anything for them.
right. So it's either
So I think I agree with you. We can figure out. I think we can negotiate with like. I think at the end of the day, we can just be like, we're doing this, and they might be angry about it, but I don't think they can stop us.
true.
Sure.
But that might
Right,
cause
that might
our
piss them
own
off.
sorts of
Right, but
discontent. But I think we
can
could
figure
deal with
out.
it.
Yeah, we can figure out how to deal with that. Right, like we can provide some sort of incentive, whatever. But I think you're right. We don't. Beauregard is comfortable with moving forward with like using that model and dealing with that problem when we come to it.
I
If he
think-
thinks it's solvable.
Right.
Gotcha.
I think that so essentially do we want to try and do that rejigger on the old harbor as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do we
the
need to do that
the
as part
rejigger
of
includes everybody, I think.
Yeah. So essentially, the new docks and the old stuff all get put into a pool, and then based on some way that we figure out, maybe the answer is just we give like the bourgeoisie merchants like high priority in some way or something. Like we get an independent auditor to come and value everything, which includes things like if independent merchant has built up his dock very well, his dock space is worth more, based on
Right.
existing stuff.
or yeah, unless he gets to have
Yeah.
better pick and then like I don't know, we can
Electric Fortnite points out if you give these kind of one-off guys the first pick, what you're going to end up with is all of the individual single best kind of like docks
Yeah.
are going to get snatched up first by these guys, and you're not going to be able to fill in a block anywhere
Right.
anywhere else,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I don't think first pick is the right way to do it, but like essentially over like in some ways we could say, look, we will multiply the value of
Enoch
like
left channel
if you
and
have
disconnected.
sufficiently there goes Enoch, he gives 0 fucks. Uh essentially, let's say you've put in $1 million Kintargo bucks into renovating your dock, so you get like essentially 2 million Kintargo bucks worth of bargaining or buying power in the new scheme. Of course, it is zero sum. Well, it's not zero sum because we're adding stuff. So people who haven't done that, they just have like a couple of planks with some floaty bits on them. They might feel disenfranchised and end up in Old Town. And sorry, someone's got to lose for everyone to win.
Yeah, well, we'll figure this. Well, I think we can figure this out in post, and I think part of that is going to be that the public sector is going to be one of the more powerful options. So we'll be able to pick out swaths of stuff for ourselves, and we can maybe offer that to, like,
Enoch moved
we
in
can
from
offer,
Derp speak by the server.
we can offer in like these individuals a space on the like they could pick from the public docks too if they want.
Yeah, and then the public docks can also.
Yeah, if the public docks are fucked, it's not the end of the world. In terms of like cohesiveness, because the public docks are meant for the public use anyway. They're by their nature kind of dispersed. But yeah, so that should work. The Kintargo gets to buy in at a portion, or not Kintargo. Keone gets to buy in at a portion, and it's at some rate that's paying for the development of the new areas, and that will go into the pool, and everybody will be able to um, make picks. I'm assuming House Reynolds and Keonan will have like we'll figure out some sort of drafting system to get that that will be its own separate set of negotiations.
Yeah.
Um,
That
But just like the project on its face is going to be, the big. So the other half of this is that this is going to be like a big public works project that's going to take a ton of cash from you guys. How you get that cash is kind of going to be like up to you, sort of thing.
it'll take cash from everyone buying into it and us. We will have to be a significant portion.
Yeah,
of it,
the point is I want to front load here that you guys are dedicating a lot of the money that you will, like, a lot of the whatever whatever money you walk into running the country with, right? You will have to allocate a lot of resources in order to get this whole thing done.
Yes.
um,
The obvious caveat is that if we walk in and half the city is burnt to the ground by the time we're there, that might have to go first.
uh,
Like this is not something I'm saying out loud. It's more just like
what is T3?
Let me see. You guys should be able to, down in the handout section, the handout section, Temple Hill, T3, is the Temple of Asmodeus.
Yep, that's where the teleport is
Unsurprisingly,
going.
the Grand Temple of Asmodeus is Kintargo's largest and most powerful church.
Yes. So when the revolution comes, that will not be a temple of Asmodeus, and the teleport will remain.
that'll be the
That will be
temple
a
of the
fantastic
crackling
spot,
of
yeah.
the crackling.
That will be a fantastic
burning order.
spot for the Nexus.
Now you could totally see all of the loyal Asmodeans who really don't give a shit about like aren't politically inclined, but might be kind of mad that we blew up their temple, being like, and now you're putting the foreigners there. Great.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I didn't even think about that.
I like giving you shit to throw at us later. Don't worry.
Don't worry. Beauregard Robespierre will make sure that they're not a problem.
Yeah. It's funny. Okay, Electrofortnex next says this all makes sense. As long as we are given kind of enough of a as long as we were kind of given enough of enough of a chance to consolidate space, that is something that we are very interested in being able to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the only piece to counterbalance you are the interests of House Reynolds, and we will make sure that you and them, that both of your needs are
Mark
are
left
met well.
channel and disconnected.
Yeah.
And the city, because
Mark
I mean, I
entered
think
channel.
at least the way that I see this is like, essentially right now it's sort of a 2-player game between the city and House Reynolds, and now it would become a 3-player game between Keonan and House Reynolds and the city.
Right, but this is important enough that we can seed a lot. Like, since we're acting on behalf of the city, we can seed a lot of that if we need to. As kind of like, I don't say this out loud. Obviously, I'm not being like, and we'll give you everything you want if you ask. But
Right.
we can use that as incentive or whatever.
Okay, and then the third aspect of this is the marketplace inside of the embassy. That will all be in the current Temple of Asmodeus. To be honest with you, it's very likely that we will demolish that building entirely. We will have to do some very thorough disenchanting in order to make sure that nothing left behind in the Temple of Asmodeus makes any kind of has any kind of poor interactions with the magics that we're going to be putting down. But we would need to be building a new building from scratch, kind of no matter what. So that doesn't make a huge difference.
We are.
That's kind of the plan.
Yeah,
Okay.
I offer that we would be
We'll help with the demolition.
well and the scrubbing as much as we can. We'd want to do that anyway. We don't want any traces of Asmodeus.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Again.
One last thing that I wanted to mention is I also mentioned the Dragon Rivazare. We are very interested in him or her, and
Is that the blue dragon?
that's the blue dragon that what's that guy's name?
Shadowfax.
The Shadow Dragon of Cyrexis. I can't remember his name offhand.
Shadow Rex.
Anyway, he says we very much would like to capture her alive and transport her back to the Shattered Hall if at all possible, dead as well if necessary.
You could provide uh, providing guidance and or equipment that can transport a dragon alive. I have never heard of such a feat.
If you are able to defeat, if you are able to, defeat the dragon, in whatever way that makes sense, we will happily take over any containment and transport back to Kyonin and the Shattered Hall as necessary.
Does the Shadow Dragon require us to kill her?
I can't remember. I know you guys made a deal with him.
I want to say that the Shadow Dragon.
Promises the Silver Ravens have made. Zexus is his name. Will defeat Rivazare. I think just defeat.
All right.
Yeah.
So there's no problem.
No conflict of interest.
Yeah, there's no conflict of interest there.
Why do you want Rivazare?
I would like to keep that information secret. You can make a knowledge history check about this. Both of you and Alric.
Do I get a bonus?
Yeah, you get a small bonus.
Do I get a shitty? Actually, I do it with your ranks, don't I?
No, not this.
Oh, okay.
Not Beauregard,
37.
You vaguely remember that in something that you read, maybe like as a kid or like a teenager or something was mentioned about kind of this weird thing between like elves and dragons or something, that there was like something in there. There's something about that, but you can't quite fully recall.
All right. Well, I'll have to do research on that. Maybe I'll ask Zexus. He probably knows. But yeah.
Alright, so they want Rivazare. They buy into they get their marketplace in you get a marketplace in the future embassy administered by the I would imagine by the ambassador, correct?
That makes sense. The ambassador from Ravenel to Kyonin will be the one who administers the marketplace at the Nexus.
Excellent. And then developing the port, transporting Rivazare alive or dead to the Shattered Hall. Can I make a knowledge, or rather, is there any knowledge check I could make to be like, what would there be anything that Alaric could think of, any reason essentially either not to do that or a reason to keep it here?
I'm sorry, to keep what?
Rivazare. This is. Like,
I see.
I already made the knowledge history, so if that would be the check, then that probably
this is more of a knowledge arcana check then.
Okay. Bloop. Not much better.
Well, it's a different question. That is a different answer. Okay. So obviously, dead dragons, like the dragon scales are worth a lot. Dragon's blood is worth a lot. Dragon fangs are worth a lot. Like, there's just like a lot of intrinsic money that goes into dragons, and so you guys are giving away a certain amount of just like cash by doing so, or kind of like reagents and stuff like that. Like if you want to get any kind of like special dragon monster hunter armor made or anything like that, you know what I mean? Like you can do that. But that's kind of it from that perspective. Essentially, the point is that biologically dragons are very magical and very valuable for the purpose of creating magic items and shit.
Well, for now, I don't see why we shouldn't agree. I don't know. Talk to Beauregard on the side and say, hey, I mean, dragons are worth a lot. I don't know. Can we, like, right? Dragons are worth a lot. we are going to get access from this deal. As part of this deal now is like getting access to magical equipment, like, so we'll benefit from that somewhat. Like, essentially, this is a fight we wanna have.
They can have it. This is this is probably the most direct. Unless we find out they're doing something nefarious with it, they can have it.
Okay.
This is essentially them. This is what they're paying us for now.
Sure.
Right? Like the trade stuff brings benefit to us. The money they are giving us now, as a source, is paying for this dragon in my mind at least.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good.
Fair enough.
So we're all happy with dragons.
Okay. I think that's everything. Is there any other part that I've missed to the agreement?
To go over it.
The tariffs and also
The tariffs.
Oh,
the
what do you
tariffs
wanna
we
do
said
for
at
tariffs?
The beginning. The tariffs said at the beginning.
Oh, right.
Tariffs are identical.
Well,
We-
so right
we're
now
going
you guys
to
have
slash, We're slashing tariffs.
except
but
for
there will
salt and silver, right?
Oh yeah, there's protection of the salt and silver industries. Which I put in exact nature of protection TBD.
Elector Fortnite says that's fine. We have done some projections, and we seriously doubt that there will be any kind of influx from our end about those sorts of materials. And I understand that you still want to keep Kintargo competitive in those markets, so those tariffs make sense, right?
Yeah. I assume that this won't be a problem, especially as the presumptive administrator of this complex, but keeping the teleporter trade open to Kintargo, like, and that if the teleporter is assaulted, Keonan will assist in the defense of the city because, after all, it's your teleporter.
That makes sense. We would be happy to add, we'll add soldiers to kind of the garrison.
Mm-hmm.
In general, they will. I mean, as I said before, we are looking to keep the teleporter information as restricted as possible, and so outside of probably your ambassador and his immediate team, any kind of direct access to the magic, the enchantments, anything along those lines, will be restricted. But we are happy to kind of pay for that privilege by adding 250 or 500 troops to the city's garrison, as an extra defensive measure. Obviously, the nexus of our proposed trade network is of high value to us as well.
Yeah. Anything I missed? Ships are protected. This whole harbor complicated arrangement that we're talking about.
Did we agree to 50 miles?
No, we did not agree to 50.
He said, what he said was that 50 miles was in place until the pirates. We can negotiate that down. But his thing was, he was like, this is only in place because the pirates are around. So if the pirates are defeated, then that falls off.
Okay.
I kind of thought that was like, I guess sort of that was how we were going to protect them, was by defeating the pirates. I think 50 miles, could we...
I mean, hypothetically, you guys know that you are going to deal with the pirates relatively soon. So this will the agreement that's being cast now won't even be able to be enforced for years, right? You have to take control of the whole city, and by that point, if the pirates aren't defeated, well, you're fucked in other ways.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
And so. All right, I want to write this down.
As the link between our two parties, I would like to volunteer to be, when the time comes, the ambassador between.
I actually would like that written. Elector Fortnite says this. I would like that written into the agreement now. I trust Alaric with my life. He's been one of my star pupils, and when it comes to someone that will simultaneously represent the interests of, Kintargo and Ravenel, as well as respect, the bounds and the desires of Kyonin. There is no one I trust more than Alaric to handle that divide.
Works for me.
Okay,
Perfect.
so I'm gonna write down this agreement in
Blood.
full blood. Yes, that's a good one. Elector.
I say here,
I
let me
will.
get.
I will prepare the ancient rites. And I pull out a dagger.
Okay,
This house is
so
sealed.
the first promise is dark space.
It's a Kentucky tradition.
We should probably. I don't know if we need real numbers, but
Eh. Are any of you there?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm
Okay.
typing out.
I think it's just been you, me, and Buddy this whole time.
I'm so sorry. Jimmy, are you still there?
Jimmy, does this sound good to you? How about you, Enoch?
I was actually
It sounds
actually
pretty
ready
good.
I was actually ready to make it a whole big thing for Jimmy too, especially when you guys were talking about Old Town, because I was like, oh my god, gentrification, right? Like it's going to like completely fuck up like all of these lower class people. They're all going to be like displaced from their homes, like. And I was so ready to give that to Jimmy, and then you guys, well, they'll just be the cheap docks, and I was like, well, I guess we're not going to gentrify then.
Oh, can you guys not hear me? My little mic
We
speaker
haven't
thing
heard
is
No,
up.
we
you
haven't
at
been
all
able to
this
hear
whole
you.
Oh,
time.
okay.
Do you have
So
anything
my
that you want to
thing
add?
was like up in my headset, but I no, I was actually saying that. I was like, wait, you're just taking all this public sector stuff and you're just privatizing it, you pieces of shit.
Well, actually,
You
we're not,
fucking
right?
piece
We're
of
not
shit.
actually. It
Oh,
I mean, if by public
sure.
sector you mean like run down bullshit that
doesn't work.
work. Yeah.
We're redeveloping it.
Yeah, you're gentrifying it. Gotcha.
Yeah,
You're-
gentrifying.
Well,
And
so
this-
it is
this
no
is
longer
not like-
being it is no longer being
Yeah, we're
gentrified.
putting
I
in the
can't
some more
believe you
truest
guys
slums
sense of
haven't
the
outside
heard
word.
the
me. Oh
wall.
my god.
It-
I
well,
was like,
no,
why is
we-
everyone ignoring me?
Like this is not. No, we literally haven't heard you this whole time.
I'm
This
so
is-
sorry, Jimmy.
Don't.
Me-
Yeah,
my
I
fault.
asked Fortnax about being able to put poor people in the teleporter to teleport them to places elsewhere.
Oh my god.
You guys have a labor shortage. I imagine.
It's like a bus, except faster.
But like on the real, we're not talking about like this is just the reality. Much the same way that real gentrification is a reality. Like more trade equals more money equals slowly like the neighborhood will presumably like this isn't. We are not putting
But
in place
if
a
you
policy
are
at this
saying
point.
that,
Well,
like,
I do want to
real
say
life, that is not how that works.
if you guys had given these Old Town docks specifically to Kyonin, whose entire purpose with their docks essentially, right, is bringing in like the most wealthy, like like the most wealthy merchants that they can find to use their teleporter kind of thing, that would have had a very negative gentrification effect on Old Town, right? The residents would have been forced out. It would have been like a much bigger deal kind of thing.
No, we've just
but-
opened up a bunch of space. We got rid of all these beastmen.
the-
The outer fringes of the city are ripe for new settlement.
Yeah, but the way that the way that you have proposed this docks thing, making it a more like an equal redistribution with kind of like a focus on these Western docks being like the cheap docks, that will actually be very good for Old Town because it will bring very big working class. It'll bring like a lot of like working class jobs essentially there. You know what I mean? Because like there's a lot of people. So this is a
Fine,
pretty
I
good.
can
This is a
accept
pretty good resolution.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good job seeing 01 on the map, Mango.
Yeah, right. I can't believe it. I cannot believe
Yeah,
it. Oh
as-
my god, I feel like such a retard.
As Weird raises the objections, I say, we'll put as part of the public sector, we'll put aside money to create a stevedores union.
No unions.
Oh my god.
No unions.
Mango's advocating for
Hey,
you know.
Mango isn't.
I'm sorry, you're right. Yeah, Beauregard. I actually don't know what your political position on unions is, but whatever. That's not for this.
In this case, as creating the new government of a
I hate them.
feudal town, we're going very anti-labor on this one.
Yeah, I am.
I hate unions.
I am pro-union and anti-confederacy. Civil War jokes.
I get it.
Yeah.
I actually
And
thought
I
you were
was-
serious. I was like, is
It
there
took me
like
a minute. I
a
was like,
difference between a
Confederacy, like the Civil
confederacy
War,
and
and I was like,
union?
oh, I
don't
get
know.
it. Anyway. Of a Kyonin, Operated marketplace outside Ravenel, Texas. Doop doop doo. Shit. What else? The body / person of Revozair. What else? Okay, so I have the dock space thing. The temple becomes the embassy. The creation of
Don't
the
a lot of the
market.
public still kind of care about that church, though? Like, a
Yeah,
majority or
I'm
something?
worried about that
Because,
too,
Uh,
but
like,
I feel
that's,
like
like, not gonna
it
be
is.
cool
It
if you just,
is.
like...
Let me just like. Who wants to make knowledge religion checks?
I
Because you can
can't
make
do
some
that
knowledge
shit.
religion checks to kind of figure that one out.
Figure out
yo,
which one.
I got. Why do I have 8 ranks in knowledge religion? What the
well
fuck,
done.
Charles?
What are we figuring out?
What? I guess really what the religious makeup of the city is, and how mad people will be if we blow up the Church of Asmodeus.
Yeah. So the people of Ravenel, like there's some legit people in like it will cause uproar. It will cause like some real uproar. A lot of people find solace in Asmodeus and are kind of like low-key Asmodeus workers. In the same way, I mean, we've talked about this in kind of other contexts, right? But like most people can't pass a knowledge religion check high enough to understand that Asmodeus is really the Prince of Lies and that he is shitty, right? Most people look at him as the Prince of Laws, right? And think of it's almost kind of like a really evil version of the American dream, kind of like manifest destiny sort of thing, right? Like, that's how Asmodeus is seen in Cheliax, and a a significant portion of the city is going to be perturbed.
Yeah, so that could be a problem.
You know.
I would imagine it will be.
Would demographics be like knowledge local? Can I roll that?
Yeah, you can roll. Yeah,
I would
that's
assume it's
fine.
more a religion thing, but whatever.
It is more of a religion thing, but like the demographic aspect of it, it's a pretty advanced thing, so you don't know it off the top of your head. You get the sense that like it's by no means guaranteed, right? It's something that you can hypothetically solve in some kind of other way, right? It's not like you know that this is going to cause like huge riots across the city, but that is a distinct possibility because most people in Kintargo, whether kind of coerced into it or sincere, are followers of Asmodeus.
So, I think not that this is relevant for the discussion here, unless we have another prime area in mind for the marketplace. The destruction of the Church of Asmodeus during the glorious reclamation can probably be made, hopefully be made to look like something of an accident. And we'll say, well, that sucks and it's super evil here. But we have a lovely plot. We have where the church is coming back in a slightly less favored way.
Yeah, I mean, it also might be a thing that's like tough, but where you break. You just try and break the city and say, fuck it, Asmodeus is evil. No one is allowed to worship Asmodeus anymore. I don't know.
I don't know. Well, is there another? So, in my head, anyways, this is sort of we've rolled back a little bit because we just all of a sudden got all the messages that Jimmy was sending us. Like, is there another place we could put the embassy?
Yeah, sure.
Well, like
You put it wherever
No,
you want.
I wanted to
Like,
destroy
no,
the,
he's...
I want to put it on the temple of Asmodeus. I don't want that.
Okay.
I mean,
Like,
I know he's a bad god, so I know it's better for the people in the long term to get over it.
I just
Tough
worry
love,
about people have
bitches.
real problems getting rid of
Exactly.
like there have been so many wars fought over. Anyways,
Can
whatever.
You hear the people singing
Yeah.
the song of angry men.
Whatever. Sure.
That said, you also know that a good number of your followers are anti-Asmodean. You know what I mean? Like, you
Yeah,
are
if,
also
if
very
the
much
Church of
pandering
Asmodeus
to your
happens
base
to
by
receive
like.
happens to go skyward, I'm not gonna shed a tear
I mean,
over it.
that's acceptable. It's not like fucking.
Alaric is super big fan of Callistria. Actually, not super big, but
Okay,
like a big
wait.
fan.
So what did I say? I have Dock Space, Temple of Asmodeus, Marketplace inside that temple, Body and Person of Rivazair. Okay. Oh, also 50 miles protection. Wiped with defeat of Deep Mar Pirates. What else?
The administration stoof.
Oh, right. Okay,
Alaric
Alaric
becomes
is
the dude.
ambassador from Rev to Kyonin. And then what you guys get out of it, benefits. 1 benefactor slot. 2. What else do you guys get out of it? Well, I guess you just kind of get like all of the ambient trade gold. Oh, also that you're repealing a bunch of tariffs. That's also in here.
Yeah. Well, that's more. It's less of a promise and more of a we think this is a sound policy.
That's true.
We're trying. We have a big fucking port. We want to actually use it.
Yeah, that'll be a big deal. That'll be a big deal for you guys. Okay. All right.
So is this sheet gonna update automatically? Is the great question.
Maybe.
Okay. You guys put all of that stuff into a thing. Electro Fortnax signs it. You guys sign it.
Yeah.
You read it over. You make a linguistics check to see if he's fucked with you at all. He's not fucked with you.
Have we fucked with him?
No. Have you fucked with him? Is there anything you want to like sneak in there? Okay, good. He says, "Great. This makes a lot of sense. I will go report it to my. I'll go report it to my superiors. How do you want us to get in touch with you about supplying your troops and all of that?"
Can first of all, can he teach me conference?
Oh yeah, he teaches you conference. That's fine.
Okay, I mean I don't actually know if we said I knew it or not, but if he teaches me conference, can't he just conference with us?
That's fine. Yeah, you guys go get some conference coins. So that you can conference with Elector Fortnax. He's now going to be included on the silver, whatever that thing is called, not Council, Congress. With all of the other kind of like, ancillary players. And then I guess we're going to move on.
Didn't we also say that? Benefits. They help us in procuring magic items. Which I mechanicized as we can roll for magic items at the city rate, even like when it's in times of war, we're not there type deal.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I didn't actually realize that, but that's fine. That makes a lot of sense.
I thought I said that last time. That just seemed to have made sense. Like essentially, Elector Fortnax could like sneak us stuff out of the city when we weren't nearby.
That's fine.
Which might in the city might not help us. Or,
okay,
well,
that's it, I guess. So yeah.
All right.